What if I told you that thinking about your death could actually make you happier? Sounds backwards, right? But here's the thing. Psychologists have been studying this for decades, and the results are wild. It's called mortality salience, and it might just change how you live your life. So let's start with what mortality salience actually means. It's basically when you become aware that you're going to die. Not in a morbid way, but just acknowledging that, yeah, this life has an expiration date. And when that awareness kicks in, something interesting happens in your brain. You start making choices, better choices, usually. There's this whole field of research called terror management theory. It was developed by psychologists in the 1980s, and it's all about how humans deal with the knowledge that we're going to die. Most animals don't know they're mortal. Your dog isn't lying there at night thinking, one day I won't exist. But humans, we know, and that knowledge shapes everything we do. Here's where it gets interesting. Researchers did this study where they split people into two groups. One group was asked to think about their own death, really picture it, and write about it. The other group was asked to think about something else, like dental pain. Then, both groups were given tasks to measure their life satisfaction and choices. And guess what? A death group made healthier choices. They said they'd exercise more. They valued relationships more. They were more generous, just from thinking about death for a few minutes. Here's the crazy part. It doesn't make you depressed. You'd think sitting around contemplating your mortality would send you into a spiral, right? But it does the opposite. When you really sit with the fact that your time is limited, suddenly all the petty stuff falls away. That argument you had with your friend doesn't seem so important anymore. That job you hate, life's too short to waste on it. The people you love, you want to tell them more often. There's actually a name for this effect. It's called post-traumatic growth. And it happens to people who survive near-death experiences. They come back different, not damaged, but clearer. They know what matters now. And you don't need to almost die to get that clarity. You just need to think about it honestly. Look at cultures that don't hide from death. In Mexico, they have Dia de los Muertos, the Day of the Dead. It's a celebration. They build altars, tell stories about dead relatives, eat skull-shaped candy. Death is part of life, not this scary thing you avoid talking about. And research shows that people in cultures like this have less death anxiety than we do in the West. We hide death away in hospitals and funeral homes, never talk about it, and then wonder why we're so anxious all the time. Buddhism has been onto this for thousands of years. Monks meditate in cemeteries. They contemplate impermanence constantly. They're not miserable. They're some of the happiest people on earth. Because when you accept that everything ends, you stop clinging so hard. You enjoy what's here right now instead of worrying about losing it later. Here's what happens in your brain when you think about death. Your amygdala, that's your fear center, lights up at first. Then, if you stick with it, instead of pushing it away, something shifts. Your prefrontal cortex kicks in. That's the part that handles meaning-making and perspective. And you start asking bigger questions. What matters to me? What do I want my life to mean? Who do I want to be? These aren't scary questions. They're clarifying questions. Steve Jobs talked about this in his famous Stanford speech. He said he looked in the mirror every morning and asked himself, if today were the last day of my life, would I want to do what I'm about to do today? And if the answer was no, too many days in a row, he knew he needed to change something. That's mortality salience at work. It's a compass pointing you toward what actually matters. Now here's what's useful about this. You don't need to have a near-death experience. You don't need to be diagnosed with something terrible. You just need to get honest with yourself for a few minutes. Picture yourself at 80, 90, whatever. Looking back on your life, what do you want to see? What do you want to have done? Who do you want to have loved? And then ask yourself, am I living that life right now? Or am I putting it off, thinking I have forever? Research is clear on this. People who regularly contemplate their mortality report higher life satisfaction. They're more grateful. They prioritize relationships over achievement. They take more meaningful risks. They stop sweating the small stuff. And they feel more alive, not less. Here's the thing most people get wrong. This isn't about being morbid or depressing yourself. It's about perspective. It's about remembering that this is finite, so it matters. Every day matters. Every conversation matters. Every choice matters. Not in a heavy, burdensome way, but in a way that makes you pay attention, makes you show up, makes you stop sleepwalking through your own life. So here's my question for you. When was the last time you really thought about your death? Not in a scared way, but in an honest way. And if you did that today, right now, what would change? What would you do differently? Who would you call? What would you stop wasting time on? Drop your thoughts in the comments. And if this made you think differently about life and death, hit subscribe, because we're diving into the psychology that actually matters, the stuff that changes how you live, not just how you think. Because we're diving into the psychology that actually matters, the stuff that changes how you live, not just how you think.